It was well over 2 years ago when I first decided to create my game Decay. A game that was only supposed to take 6 months to complete. A game that was only supposed to get me a passing grade in an assessment that I didn't really care about. A game that ended up taking over my life. This is the story of the first 2 years of Decay. Now this story starts where all legendary stories begin. Year 13 Digital Technologies class. So there I was, complete with a massive gaming backpack, significantly worse acne and clapped British teeth. Yeah, I was pretty fucking sexy. Anyways, our teacher tasked us with coming up with a coding project that was supposed to take about 6 months. Now at this point, all the experience I had with coding was limited to small Python programs and Minecraft command blocks. So basically, I was a fucking pro. I thought it would be a fun idea to create a game for the project. I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into it. I just thought, oh yeah, I'll make a game. How hard can it be, you know? Little did I know that I had just made one of the most important and formulative decisions that I would make in the next few years. I decided that I wanted to create a survival game because at the time I was a massive fan of the genre, like games like Minecraft, Subnautica. They were all the shit. So I basically came up with a bunch of features that I wanted to complete for the project and wrote it all into this list. And that is when Decay was birthed. Right from the beginning, this was a terrible idea. I didn't know anything about making games. I didn't know what freaking software to use. I didn't even know any softwares. When I chose the game engine I used, I literally went home, I got up my computer and I typed game making program, and the first thing that came up was Game Maker. So I was like, oh yeah, that sounds about right. I'll use that one. Originally, I envisioned the game to be a 3D project, but I quickly realized that Game Maker was only really purpose-built for 2D games, and I already sunk $30 on the software, so I was locked in. So with the sudden realization that my game was now going to be 2D, I went home and I did a bunch of research and different 2D survival games, and I quickly realized that, to be honest, there weren't that many, you know. The 3D market is sort of fluctuated with thousands of survival games, but in 2D there's this sort of Terraria and then a bunch of Terraria clones. So I thought, sweet, you know, this is open market. I can, you know, really pave my way with my own style and art. And also, it is significantly easier to code a 2D game. Like, you don't have to worry with freaking 3D assets, 3D modeling, you know, all this complicated shit that I wasn't planning on doing. So I opened up an empty Game Maker project and I began following some Sean Spalding tutorials to get a very basic movement system. Now, this may not look like a lot to you, but to me, I milked a whole goddamn video on this shit. Anyways, the next obvious step was to replace the green square. So I began trialing some art, and to be honest, my first attempts, you know, they weren't the greatest, to be honest, but eventually I sort of figured out the style I was going for and ended up with this. I then created some backgrounds and a parallax effect, and at this point, I was starting to think, you know, this game making thing, it's pretty goddamn easy. That, or I was a genius. And that was when I had to create an inventory system. For some dumb fuck reason, Game Maker doesn't have any UI tools, so if you want to make anything like menus, title screens, options, you have to code all that shit from the ground up. I was not prepared for that. All I had created was a freaking moving green square. I didn't know what a function was, an array, or any of that fancy coding shit. So I did what any good developer does, and I tried my best to steal as much code as possible. I went on Reddit forums, Stack Overflow, literally anything that didn't require me to use my brain. And eventually, I did find a plugin that did everything that I needed to do, but I was so overwhelmed by the sheer girth of the project that I promptly gave up and left the project to gather dust. So a year later, I'm in my first year at uni, studying music, and at this point I hadn't thought of my game in frickin' ages, and I was solely focused on doing my degree. Unfortunately for me, 2021 was not the best year to be a musician. So suffice it to say, my music career wasn't going so great, and things got even worse when the whole country decided to go into lockdown. Now, at this point, the majority of the people in my hall decided it would be a good idea to go home. We'll call this group of people the intellects. Now me, I thought it was a genius idea to stay, get closer to everyone, make some new friends. And that was when the first fatal flaw of my plan revealed itself. There was no one to get close to because everyone went home. So suddenly, I had 4 weeks ahead of me of isolating in my tiny ass dorm room all by myself. It didn't take me long before I started to lose my mind. So I cracked back into it. Within a couple days, I'd finally figured out how to use the inventory system I stole, and I'd even created a crafting system that I built myself. So my coding skills were getting better, I was getting more familiar with the program. Progress was good. Next up, I redesigned my movement system completely so the player could run up and down slopes and had built-in acceleration, deceleration, friction, and air resistance. I created enemies, all with their own AI and mannerisms. I created a bunch of weapons and tools like the axe, the sword, the bow and arrow. I created resource collection with mining and tree felling. Progress was crazy. I started back up creating videos and documenting the progress, and without even realizing it, I was falling in love with game dev. After a year of, sort of just bobbing around life, not really doing a whole lot, I felt like I was achieving something every day, albeit it may have been something as stupid as a thick frog, but you know what? It was my thick frog, and I was goddamn proud of it. Suddenly, this thing that was originally supposed to be a cheap distraction from the lockdown started taking over my life. It started taking over all of my thoughts. But at this point, I was too proud to admit that this is actually what I wanted to do with my time. You see, for the last 10 years, I've been playing instruments, producing, recording. Music was kind of like my full-time thing. And I had convinced myself that I was born to do music. So after the lockdown finished, I kind of pushed down game making and it became more of a side background hobby. So progress slowed, but I achieved a few things like a rudimentary day and night cycle complete with sunrises and sunsets. I added a few more enemies in, some extra tools, but the main thing I did during this time was brainstorm. I needed to figure out what the game was. What was the overarching story? What were the main gameplay pillars? I needed to figure out why this game deserved to exist. Now, I've kept all of this information pretty secret in all my videos. I haven't really spoken too much about the story and what's coming ahead. I mean, from the outside, I can imagine it looks like I'm just chucking in random shit like, I want to add defenses, I want to add this random freaking enemy that shoots an eye out of his face. I get that it looks a little weird, but trust me, this is not the case. It's all part of this grand plan, which I'm going to explain in a future video. So if you want to see that, smash the subscribe button. Anyway, it's near the end of 2021, and I woke up one morning to a bunch of YouTube notifications. Some random ass American dude had found my videos and left a bunch of comments and critiquing and complimenting my channels and videos. Now I want you to keep in mind, this was not a common occurrence. In fact, these were the first comments I had ever received that weren't from my family or sex bots. It pretty much blew my mind. Not only that, it also inflated the hell out of my ego. I mean, at this point, I was very close to giving up on YouTube, considering the fact that each video was garnering around 20 to 30 views. So this gave me a new wind of momentum. So I kept posting, and more comments popped up, more and more people popped up, and suddenly, before I even knew it, I was growing a small little community. And as the channel grew, my motivation to create the game followed. Slowly, more and more of my time started getting eaten up by this side project to the point where it took over everything. In the following months, I created a building system complete with structural integrity. I scrapped all of the enemies and replaced them with new ones that I thought were more fit to the game. I created and added special effects and shaders like bloom and contrast and saturation. I fixed a whole lot of bugs and completely recreated the crafting, building, and health system. However, after all these updates and a few months, it slowly started to dawn on me that something was very wrong. You see, I was still enrolled at uni, studying music. But at this point, it was near the end of the semester, and I was finding it so boring that I stopped attending lectures, and I stopped attending workshops. I was just in my room coding my game. Basically, I needed to get the fuck out of there. So on the 1st of June, after a lengthy chat with my family, I made the decision to drop out of uni. Get this. Pursue game dev full time. Was this a good idea? Probably not. Am I going to be broke by the end of the year? 100%. Do I regret it? Hell fucking no. I figured, I know it sounds batshit crazy. I mean, all of my friends are either in degrees or doing apprenticeships, but you know what? I really enjoy game dev. I love the coding, I love the animating, I love all aspects of it. And I 100% believe in this project. I think it's going to be a goddamn banger of a game. And even if the game isn't successful, it'll give me a kick-ass portfolio and a ton of learning experiences. So since this date, I have gone full-time game dev. And let me tell you, I've been cracking out some goddamn banging content for you guys. I've added armor, completely reworked the day and night system. I've added defenses like the bear trap, the catapult, the ballista, the spike walls. I've added in enemy wave spawning. I've added in farming. I've added in cooking. I've added in all sorts of cool stuff that you guys are gonna have to see in the future devlogs. But what I can tell you is that list that I created in digital technology so long ago with all the features that I planned on adding. A week ago, I finally completed that list. 17-year-old Luke thought that would take 6 months. 17-year-old Luke was a fucking idiot. But I've done it, and I'm planning on adding so much more. And I just want to say thank you to all of you who've been watching me, whether it's from the start or from a couple of days ago. You know, all the support, all the comments, just everything has been so amazing, and it's a big part of why I enjoy doing this so much. So thank you. Also, a few of you in the comments have been mentioning about starting a Patreon, and look, I've been pretty hesitant to do this because I don't really like asking for money, but I'd be an idiot not to if you guys are just offering it. So I'm gonna start a buy me a coffee page, and I just want to say that this is only for people that want to give me money. I don't know why you guys want to give a random New Zealand guy some of your money. Thank you for wanting to do that. That means a lot. But this is only for the crazy people that want to do that. For everyone else, all the content, everything I'm going to be creating, all the demos and alpha builds, I want them to be all available for everyone. So there's no one stuck behind a paywall. But yeah, there's also a Discord if you guys want to follow that. I've got an Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Yeah, I've made a TikTok. It's embarrassing, but oh well, it's there. So if you wanna check those out, all the links are in the description. And as always, I love you, and I will see you in the next video. Let's fucking go!